Singapore's economy gained momentum in the third quarter of 2024, growing by 4.1% year-on-year, according to advance estimates from the Ministry of Trade and Industry, released on 14th October. This represents a significant increase from the 2.9% growth recorded in the second quarter. In the second quarter of 2024, the economy expanded by 2.9% year-on-year, slightly lower than the 3% growth seen in the first quarter. Separately, Singapore's central bank, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, announced on the same day that it will maintain its current monetary policy settings as inflation shows signs of easing and economic growth continues to strengthen. The recovery was attributed to the manufacturing sector, which expanded by 7.5% in the third quarter, a notable rebound following contractions in the previous two quarters. Other sectors, such as construction and finance, also saw positive contributions to the economy. On a quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted basis, the economy grew by 2.1%, up from 0.4% in the second quarter of 2024. Advanced gross domestic product estimates are based on data from the first 2 months of the quarter, serving as an early indication of Singapore's economic performance. These estimates may be revised as more comprehensive data becomes available later in the year. In August, Singapore had adjusted its GDP growth forecast for 2024 to a range of 2% to 3%, following stronger than expected economic performance in the first half of the year. Previously, the MTI had projected GDP growth between 1% and 3%. The manufacturing sector led Singapore's recovery in the third quarter, growing by 7.5% year-on-year. This marked a turnaround from the 1.1% contraction in the second quarter and the 1.5% decline in the first quarter. MTI reported that growth was broad-based across all manufacturing clusters, except for the biomedical manufacturing cluster. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, manufacturing grew by 9.9%, a sharp improvement from the 1.2% contraction in the second quarter. The continued expansion in manufacturing is expected to remain a key driver for overall economic growth. The construction sector grew by 3.1% in the third quarter of 2024, although this was slower than the 4.8% growth recorded in the second quarter. This sector's growth was mainly attributed to an increase in public sector construction output. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, however, construction growth was flat, moderating from the 3.4% expansion seen in the previous quarter. The group of sectors comprising wholesale and retail trade, transportation, and storage collectively grew by 3.5% in the third quarter, slightly lower than the 3.9% expansion in the second quarter. Growth within this group was mainly supported by the transportation and storage sectors, with water and air transport performing particularly well. Wholesale trade also expanded, led by the machinery, equipment, and supplies segment. However, the retail trade sector continued to face challenges, contributing to a more subdued performance. Meanwhile, the group of sectors including information and communications, finance and insurance, and professional services posted a 4.3% year-on-year growth in the third quarter, down from 5.3% in the second quarter. In the information and communications sector, IT and information services led growth, while the professional services sector benefited from an expansion in activities related to head offices and business representative offices. The finance and insurance sector saw broad-based growth, particularly in banking and financial services. On a quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted basis, these sectors grew by 1.6%, an improvement over the 1.2% growth in the second quarter. Sectors related to accommodation, food services, real estate, and administrative support services grew by 1% year-on-year in the third quarter, maintaining the same pace as the previous quarter. MTI attributed growth within this group to the accommodation sector, which benefited from a recovery in international visitor arrivals. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, these sectors collectively expanded by 0.8%, reversing the 1.3% contraction seen in the second quarter. The preliminary GDP estimates for the third quarter of 2024, which will include further details on inflation, employment, and productivity, will be released as part of the Economic Survey of Singapore next month. The broader economic outlook for Singapore in 2024 remains positive, with growth being driven by key sectors like manufacturing and finance. However, challenges persist in areas such as retail trade, which may face headwinds in the coming months.